The George Bush forces ended the campaign very confident that they would carry Arkansas. Now, the polls have closed in Arkansas, no decision there yet. In Missouri, this has been a complicated situation. 11 electoral votes there, and you say, well, only 11 electoral votes. Folks, in a vote this close, in a presidential election this close, 11 electoral votes the electoral college votes could be the difference. And in Missouri, the lines were so long in St. Louis, a judge decreed that the polls could stay open for a while. The polls are closed in other portions of Missouri. Now, looking ahead to the next hour, what would you say with the closing at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock, Ed Bradley, important states to look for?
I'd say Minnesota and Wisconsin, states that are normally expect to go Democratic, but Ralph Nader is a big factor in both of those states. He was as high as 8% in the polls in Minnesota.
And Bob Schieffer, looking out west, Gore absolutely positively still has to have California. Oregon and Washington, both where the polls are open and will be open for quite a while, both up for grabs. Dangerous country for Gore because Nader's a factor there.
Well, again, Ralph Nader is a factor in both of those states. So we're not going to know for a while, Dan, how this comes out. It may come down to Washington and Oregon.
Electoral vote count 130 for Bush, 119 for Gore. Let's talk about advertising in this presidential campaign. Short while ago, we tried to go to Mike Wallace, but Florida dropped for Gore in the meantime. Going to go back to our old friend Mike Wallace, the 60 Minutes man. And Mike, tell us about the advertising.
Well, Dan, as I was saying when Al Gore's victory in Florida interrupted us, I've not heard the name of Ralph Nader until just a couple of minutes ago when Ed Bradley and Bob Schieffer were talking about it. This despite the fact, you know, they've spent up to $1 billion, according to John McCain, during this campaign on television commercials, local and national. Well, despite all of these commercials that have assaulted and bored the dickens out of us the past few months, there were just 2 ads that caught my fancy. Take a look.
Grilled tenderloin for fundraiser, $1,000 a plate. Campaign ads filled with half-truths, $10 million. Promises to special interest groups, over $10 billion. Finding out the truth, priceless.
I want to vote for the lesser of two evils. I want to be lied to.
I want to be apathetic.
I want tax breaks for the very rich.
When I grow up,
I
want to be disillusioned,
disenchanted,
disenfranchised. When I grow up, I want politicians to ignore me.
Is this what you want from your government? Or do you want something better for yourself and the next generation?
They wouldn't let Ralph Nader into the debates. He charged $10 for a seat at his crowded rallies. He played it earnest and angry, mainly in his speeches, and for millions of Americans, he managed to raise the questions and the doubts and to underline the disillusion that lots of us feel about how we wage our political campaigns, Dan.
Mike Wallace from the Middle East, interview with Yasser Arafat right here to our election night coverage. Maine has gone for Gore, 4 electoral votes up in Maine. This is a state that the Bush forces thought they might take. It is not to be. As we mentioned earlier, the Bush family has deep roots in Connecticut, where George Bush was actually born, in Maine, where they have a summer home, and in Texas, of course. Maine has gone for Al Gore. Also, New Jersey Senate, big race there. John Corzine has won a Democratic seat in New Jersey. This is a hold on for the Democrats. Mark this, this man spent an estimated $80 million. No, you did not hear. $80 million. He spent money like he had shorted Microsoft and won this race. We don't know the figures yet, but Corzine has won the New Jersey Senate race. Ed Bradley, let's get back to the presidential race where things are so close, 130 to 122, Bush over Gore right now. While Al Gore is competitive with George Bush, what about Tennessee?
Well, there's a big shadow in Tennessee, and the shadow's name is Bill Clinton. If you take a look at how people felt about Bill Clinton in Tennessee, you'll find that almost 60% of the voters said that they had an unfavorable attitude towards Bill Clinton, and of those voters, 74% of them voted for George Bush. And also, you hear so much about this being the vice president's home state. About 2/3 of all the voters said it was not important that Gore was from Tennessee. Dan, I think people feel that when it comes to a number of issues in Tennessee and perhaps some other states, issues like guns, tobacco, and the environment, they feel that the vice president has moved left of where they are.
What a heartbreak for Al Gore if it turns out that Tennessee is the state that keeps him from the presidency, and what a whoop for the Republicans it'll be if Tennessee turns out to be the state that keeps Gore out of the White House. Let's give you another quick look at the Electoral College map right now. This is the way it looks. 130 electoral votes for George Bush, 122 for Al Gore. It breaks down this way. Florida has gone for Gore. Illinois has gone for him. Michigan with 19 electoral votes has gone for him. New Jersey with 15 has dropped for him. Maine with 4 has just gone for him. All the states in blue belong to Al Gore. Now, there are far fewer than the states in red that have gone for George Bush. Bush is sweeping through the South like a tornado through a trailer park, and that includes the southern border state of Kentucky where the light is flashing. That's the only state so far that went for Clinton Gore in 1996 that has definitely gone tonight for Bush in Kentucky. But the big states out there where the votes, where the polls have closed, but the decisions are unknown, the two biggest ones, Pennsylvania with 23 electoral votes and Ohio with 21. West Virginia has 5 and is still out there. 2 states with 11 electoral votes. That would be Missouri and Tennessee. Most of the polls have closed in Missouri. All the polls have closed in Tennessee. Arkansas, the polls have just closed. No decision there yet either. If you want 2 to watch, Bob Schieffer, help me out here. Wisconsin with 11 electoral votes and Minnesota with 10 electoral votes are looming large, and one reason is?
Ralph Nader is there, but we also have to keep our eye on Missouri, Dan, because holding those polls open for another 3 hours, most of the Democratic vote in Missouri is in St. Louis and Kansas City. That's where the polls are being held open, in St. Louis. So this takes on added importance, I think, the fact that these polls are still open.
And Leslie Stahl, Washington State and Oregon State out west, as we said before, we keep coming back to it, this is considered strong Nader country and has to give the Gore people the knee wobbles.
And if this race is close, those voters, a lot of them are voting by ballot. We could be waiting for a day or two to find out the outcome, if it's as close as it seems to be at this point.
Electoral vote count at this hour. Bush, who's led from the opening tap, 130. Gore has come back strong in the last hour and a half, has 122. All the states in red belong to Bush. The ones in blue belong to Gore. The ones in white, the polls have closed, but no decision yet. In all the states, including New York, with 33 big electoral votes, all the states in gray are where the polls are still open. And you, if you are eligible to vote in that state, still have an opportunity to get the polls and vote. Our CBS News election night coverage will continue after these messages. Stick in here with us. CBS News election headquarters in New York. With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Bush has 130, Gore has 122. Big states hanging out there include Ohio with 21 electoral votes and Pennsylvania with 23. Joining us now is the distinguished governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Ridge. He's in Harrisburg, the capital. Good evening, Governor.
Good
what
evening,
are you
Dan.
looking
nice to
for to tell us how Pennsylvania is going to go? You must be right on the edge of your seat about this.
Well, we are. I mean, I've said all along it's going to be probably one of the most closely watched, obviously, and closely contested elections in the state. One of the challenges we always have for a Republican to win statewide, Dan, is that the Democrats have a wonderful machine in Philadelphia, and they crank out the vote, and they rack up huge, huge numbers. And we have to do our best in the other 66 counties. And so far, it would suggest to us, with record turnouts in traditional Republican counties, that we'll be able to offset this. But I think, while you may want to make a prediction when there's 20 or 30% of the vote in, you might want to wait until there's about 99.9% of the vote in Pennsylvania.
Governor, you didn't just tumble off the turnip track. You've been around politics for a long while. Seniors going for Gore in Florida said in exit polling that they were scared by Governor Bush. Why would they be scared? Social Security, you think? Was that the total sum of it?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that the play that the Democrats use every 2 years, particularly when things are looking a little bleak. That's the medic scare and the Social Security scare does have some political traction. We've tried to offset it in Pennsylvania. I mean, the challenge we have is next to Florida, we have the second largest number of seniors, and we had to run some counter commercials ourselves. I did one on the radio to try to counterbalance, but that's a pretty effective commercial. I thought it was somewhat shameless, but the fact of the matter is it does have some political traction. We have to figure out ways to overcome it.
Governor, I have to say goodbye, but I'm going to ask you one more time.